Mona Lou Cherkaoui is a
Correct.
is a longtime entrepreneur in the field of sales and leadership with experience in communicating across cultures and leading cross-cultural teams. Today, she works with organizations and leaders to enhance their cultural mastery in the ever-evolving global economy with a focus on inclusive and ethical leadership, communication, negotiations, profitability, performance, and team harmony. Welcome our presenter, Mona Lou Cherkaoui. Yay!
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. You did great in pronouncing my name. So congratulations on that. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. And today, obviously, we will learn something, and we'll learn something that will be beneficial to you from this point on when you're dealing with different people, even people in your family, believe it or not. So by show of hands, how many here have dogs? Yay, we have people have dogs. Okay, can you tell me what do they say? Deborah, you can go first. How do they bark?
They're annoying. They tell me to let me out all the time.
Yeah, when they bark, what do you hear?
I hear what they want me to hear. I hear I'm hungry. I hear somebody's here. I want to go out. It depends on his tone.
So they have a sound, like they make when they bark, give me that sound. What do you hear?
I'm not barking.
Ah, come on, be fun. All right, let's go to the next person. Let's go to the next person. How do you hear your dog bark?
I have 6 dogs, and they're all individual. They're all individual. How's that? One howls, it goes, oh, whatever.
Okay. So the question that why I'm asking this, because it is so important to know what do we hear. In the United States, for example, when I ask people, how does a dog bark? They tell me, woo, woo. I'll go to Japan. They will go, woo, woo. I'll go to Korea. They will, woo, woo. And I can go on and on and on. So the point here is what we hear is what we perceive. And we think when we perceive things coming from the outside world, we perceive it in a different way. What I hear is not what Hassan hears, Kennedy hears, Deborah hears. There is also, I'll give you another example. A French client went to Thailand on a business trip, and you think that business people would be perhaps advised prior to traveling. So he was walking and he had his money. He said, well, I don't know the area that much. He had money down in his shoes. So when he went and ate, went up front to the receptionist cashier, and then he was ready to pay. So what happens? He reached down to his shoe, took out Thailand money, and ready to pay. So what happens? Do you know anything about Thailand? Thailand has a kingdom, has a king, ruler, and you're putting the money, which had the ruler's face on that money, and he had it on the shoe. That's so insulting. So what happens at that moment? He was almost going to be smacked on the face, and he actually was threatened at that moment that it was so inappropriate. I also have a Bulgarian employee that works with me, and every time I ask her a question, now she's been living in the United States for quite a while, but every time I ask her questions, hi Chrissy, did you do that? Did you do this? She goes either like this or like this. What does it mean? When she tells me yes, is this. When she tells me no, is like this. So for most of us, if you're not familiar, you'll be confused and you'll be understanding things that are not said. So this is why it's so important to understand culture. If you don't understand it, we will assume wrong assumptions. We will judge people in a way that we shouldn't be judging them on. And then also we make faux pas that can cause us business, that can cause us relationship disruption, and maybe disagreement. And this is why it's so important to understand cultures. So often, and I repeat this over and over again, so often we don't pay attention to who we are. And when I get someone, I was at a talk last week or the week before with attorneys, Latinas attorneys, and when I mentioned, what does Cuban mean to you? What does being a Cuban mean? What does being Colombian? What does being from Venezuela? Most people, when you ask them, they don't know. They know, well, yeah, we do this, we do that, but they're just the surface. The surface is what we see. And this is what I say when I do workshops. Cultures is like a tree. What do we see on the surface? Anyone sees, what do we see on a tree? We see limbs, leaves, branches. So what does that translate to? Translate to what people wear, what people do, what people say. But that particular tree has roots, deep roots, substantial deep roots that we don't understand. And so often we act based on what we see on the surface, but not on the roots. There are several models of cultures, and I'm certified in many, but licensed on one particular one that is so familiar in Europe, and that is the Lewis model culture. Lewis model, Dr. Lewis is well known in Europe, and they use his model so often in NATO and the EU, even used it in the United Nations. And that is, and I will tell you, there is other models. Obviously, there is Hofstede, who is well known, and he defines culture as culture is the collective programming of the human mind obtained in the course of life, which is common to members of one group as opposed to another. So often we think that culture is not something youth. Culture is a study of behavior for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So when we make assessment on a certain personality based on culture, most of the time we are right, because we have thousands of years of studies showing us the pattern. And there's another one, Edward T. Hall, very famous in our field. And he said, culture hides more than it reveals. And strangely enough, what it hides more effectively from its own participants. From its own participants. What does that mean? Can you tell me what does that mean? Anyone can? Raise your hand and talk. We want interactive sessions. That's what we want. I don't want to be lecturing. What does it mean? It's strange to its participants.
I think it means that we're not always aware of what we're doing and the motivations behind what we're doing, but we just do it so instinctively.
Very good. Very good. We don't understand it.
We do it because we're taught, not because we know why we have to do this, but somewhere in our life we were told this is the way to do that.
So basically programmed, right? Basically. So we have to disrupt that programming by understanding who we are. And why do we have to understand it? Well, when it comes to dealing with culture, our concepts, our rights and wrongs. I was talking to someone 2 days ago, and she was frustrated. She was from somewhere from South America, and she was, well, I was dealing with this customer, and he did this, he did that, and then I told him this, and I told him that. Say, relax. Okay, and this is not true, and the truth is I said, hold on, let me show you something. And I'm gonna, hopefully I can show it to you here, is the concept or aspect of truth throughout the world. What my truth is, what I conceive as truth, is different from yours. And I sent her this. I have it still on my phone because I texted to her. I said her, please read this. Let me explain it to you. And what it says, because we are in the United States, obviously we depend on scientific truth. We depend on fact. On this is it. This is the truth. When you go to, for example, China, and we have our friend Lee here, well, it depends. It can be ambiguous truth, because not because of vicious concept of truth. No, it's because of courtesy. So that truth can be amended for you as a factual act. It can be amended when you go to China. Then you go to Polynesia, it becomes unspoken truth. Because why? Sensitivity to feelings. And then you go to Japan, it becomes, it's okay. We have a white lie. Why? Do you know why? Because in Japan, there is a huge desire for harmony. We need to maintain harmony. So if there is a white lie, it's okay. Then you go to Italy. Oh, have you been to Italy? Or are you dealing with Italian here? Now the truth, okay. The man in the hat there, Tom, is saying, yes, I've been there. So Italy, it becomes negotiated truth. Why? Because obviously there's a loyalty to family. There's a loyalty to a group. And I'm not going to denounce, I'm not going to say anything about this person, because I am loyal to the group. If we watched movies of mafia movies, we can see that very clearly. All right. There is a loyalty that I will not break. Then you go obviously to UK, and there is an economy of truth similar to here, but you're conforming to tradition. And Russia, it's we call it vranyu, which is accepted and truth. If it's not true, we can accept it. So there is a variance on these levels that shows you or show you why understanding culture is important. Then you see it work pattern, time. For me, time concept is different than yours. So if I am if I'm making an appointment with one day I had an appointment with someone, and I don't like to call out the country as a whole lot, because it's not like being judgmental over anything. It's just an example to show. I had an appointment. It was 7 p.m. appointment. I was there until 8:15. And I did not receive a call, and I'm waiting and I'm texting. And when they arrived, it was like nothing. It's okay. Well, your concept of time is not my concept of time. So this is why it is so important to understand. And recently I was on social media, and I saw an outrage over an Eastern European priest were doing baptized, taking the baby. And I'm watching it and then thinking, oh, okay, well, this is familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with this. They take the baby up, just like they're from their bottom of their feet, and they dump them inside a bucket of water. That's how they baptize. They dump them. While our folks, Americans, were outraged. This is child abuse. We need to report this person. And then I commented, do you know what this means? They didn't know. So we look at things, we judge people based on our understanding, but not on theirs. And this is what causes us so often misunderstanding, loss of business, team is falling apart because communication is breaking, because no one is taking the time to understand the other one's communication style. So this is what I talk about, and also interaction and gender just gender appropriation when you're dealing with male and female. I was in a part of the world, and I noticed that when I had meetings with men, they were never alone. Either I meet them out in public where there's a lot of people, but never inside closed doors, just because there is a gender differentiation. When you are a man and meeting a woman, it has some certain etiquette, some certain rules that you've got to understand. Sometimes, well, this is disrespectful to women, this is that, and this is that, and that. No, just hold. Don't rush into judgment. Understand first. When we are given feedback as well, when we are given feedback, we are abiding by our cultural norms. And if you are given feedback to someone from India and you're using our method, then you may have a problem. And also direct and indirect communication. A lot of us think that we are direct, and this is not a general assumption. It is a fact that we are in a society where most of the time you are required to be direct, although it's changing a bit. But if you are dealing with somebody else different from you, understand they will be dependent a lot on non-verbal communication, and how will you understand the clues. The clues can be definitely seen on their face and the movement of their body. And if you have no knowledge of that, then you will miss out the point, because there was a group of Americans who went to China and thinking that they're okay, you know how we are here, transactional, get to the point fast, and that's it. Let's make a sale, and that's it. Where they go in there, Chinese depend a lot on time. If you do not know the value of time in negotiation, you will not make any business. And it happens here. By the way, I have a workshop on the map of the United States and the migration that happened throughout the years, people coming from different part of the world, and the dominant culture is based on the roots, where they came from, where their parents came from, so on and so forth. So if you don't have to travel overseas. If you go to state, and the state is mainly people from a certain part of the world, or their ancestors, you are going to notice predominant behaviors from the roots, and not so much from the other neighboring regions or states. So you just have to be aware of that. It tells me it's 18 minutes after, and I would love, it's a big subject. It's a big subject that I can go on and on and on all day, but I would love to take any questions that you may have. That way we can feel that we are talking to each other, not me lecturing you. Any observation, any questions? Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering, if we don't have the time to observe or be immersed in the other culture, how do you approach that? The only thing you're aware of is, are they from another culture? I don't know how they react, or I don't know what they value. How do you approach that if without that knowledge before? That I'm with another culture, I better know something, but I don't know what it is.
Yes, good question. If they ask you to go and sell shoes in Malawi today, would you know how to do that? No.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay. So either you are going to take your time to research or hire experts in that particular culture or in general culture that they can guide you, or go to locals and they don't mind you asking them, instead of behaving in a way that seems to them disrespectful. ask questions. They're most of the time open to answer. But if you are going for business purposes, I always, like, we work with expats going to different countries. We have a whole day training just on that particular country or region they're going to. That way they are very prepared, and we provide coaching when they arrive there as well, because there's so often they don't understand what they're seeing around them, and they need some type of help until they connect themselves with groups, local Americans or local British or local Koreans in a certain area. The other, Pamela, you had your hands up.
Yes, thank you. I took cross-cultural training in the business world many, many years ago when I worked in AT&T, and learned one thing about Americans versus the rest of the world. Americans want to do business first and then establish a relationship, whereas the rest of the world wants a relationship in order to be able to trust you before they do business with you. It's just simple. Let's learn what it is that everyone else has to offer.
Exactly. I appreciate your point. I see Debbie here. One thing to, if I can leave you with something, is that understand, beside culture, understand historical facts that led to the culture we see today. If we take time to just take tiny time to learn about history, we can understand. If you take Japan as an example, and always you see Japanese, and okay, well, this is how they do things, and there's so much discipline, there's so much this and there's so much that, but we got to understand that they were closed up for so long that they had to work on their internal culture to make sure it's preserved and protected from the outside world. And with those many years of work is what we see today if we interact with someone from Japan, or have a Japanese, or identify with Japanese culture. Debbie, any more questions?
Well, this is amazing, and with the way that we interact globally, vital information, in my opinion. Now, Mona, you can stay as long as you like. This is your room. No one's going to come in and kick you out.
Okay.
And if anyone would like to stay and continue the conversation, you're welcome to.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you.